Trump massive $500 million civil fraud fine and AG Tish James case thrown out by New York appeals court. So I want to play this clip real quick.
Now, the way what everybody's been saying for months about that.
Right.
An appeals court has just thrown out President Donald Trump's $364 million civil fraud penalty. This just happened. It is a developing story. We're getting a lot more information, a big news story for the day. We're going to bring you more details as we get them. This just in. Also want to bring you this.
Okay, I read it. That's why I asked you for a little extra time. It's actually two significant parts to it. One, they just said, that's ridiculous. The other thing that they did sustain was purely injunctive relief that in essence is just saying for future reference to clear up the confusion, this is what will be required in New York or between Donald Trump and this bank when it comes to making a deal. You see, the bank's posture was, we haven't had any fraud committed against us. Nothing has been done that we didn't approve of. We assessed this independently. And the fine was totally inappropriate. The interesting and the hypocritical thing about it is right now, Tish James is under investigation herself. And there are formal allegations that she has committed the exact same kind of fraudulent conduct that she was accusing Trump of committing. Such things as securing financing for acquisition of properties outside the state, not reporting those, stating falsely that she was going to be a resident there where she couldn't, because of her residential requirements for the office she held for the state of New York. Also, such allegations as she listed her father as her spouse in order to secure them. Such things as that. So this just seems to be the jackass proclivity for hyperbole when it comes to exaggerating what their opponents have done and basically trying to what is it? Cast the blame on somebody else, or oh ye cast the first stone who was out without sin? Yeah.
Right.
So this is just what's going on, and it's like with what happened with President Trump is exactly what I said was going to happen with Dr. Cosby. Didn't I say this is not going to stand because of the following in gross violation of American law? And they just said, this is just constitutionally impermissible for this kind of fine to even be considered for something like this. No way, no how, and it's inappropriate. It's out of here.
So I want to
by the way, one further thing. Considering potential meetings or phone calls, and the interesting thing is people text a lot these days. There is a possibility that some of these texts or communications can be retrieved, and if they're between the wrong people, then that sets judge, prosecution, and other people up for a conspiracy charge, which is a crime, both in the state of New York and since it would be using federal electronic communications. This sets the stage, by the way, for further criminal investigations. This thing that has been termed lawfare, that's a new term. That's what you're looking at. That's why we have the Bill of Rights in place to stop this. That's going on 240 years ago, and somebody's tried to resurrect it.
Yeah, I want to read a quote, part of what Trump had posted on Truth Social to this judgment, this recent judgment that just broke. He says, I greatly respect the fact that the court had the courage to throw out this unlawful and disgraceful decision that was hurting business all throughout New York State. Others were afraid to do business there. The amount, including interest and penalties, was over $550 million. It was a political witch hunt in a business sense, the likes of which no one has ever seen before. This was a case of election interference by the city and state trying to show illegally that I did things that were wrong when in fact everything I did was absolutely correct and even perfect.
That's basically an accurate statement of affairs. And see, what's bad about it is you have to juxtapose the situation that's been going on with Title 8, Section 1324, etc., in terms of violation of the American criminal codes, federal criminal codes, where a blind eye has been turned to them. In fact, they have been encouraged by the previous Biden-Harris administration, and this kind of lawfare in violation of the Bill of Rights has been encouraged. So it's like, what are we doing here? To go after somebody when you shouldn't have, and to defend somebody when you shouldn't have. When you put the two sides together, that looks suspiciously like somebody's trying to set up another National Socialist Workers Party, the acronym of which we know well. It's very simple. It stands for, and it says Nazi in German.
I want to quickly swing back to the $500 million civil fraud fine, right? That Trump got that case thrown out. So will he be receiving a refund with interest?
I don't think he paid anything.
His bond?
Oh, the bond? No, you don't get your bond money back.
So it says 332-page decision included 3 separate opinions, but which all agreed the fine against Trump, which had grown to $515 million, including interest, was excessive. Okay.
Yeah. But you see, the problem with something people don't understand is when you put up the bond, if you put up a cash bond, you get it back if nothing happens. But if the case gets disposed of, even if it's dismissed, they take the cost out, so you don't get all of it back. Large percentage of the time, what people will do is they used to put up a surety bond, where somebody who is a surety, typically a bonding company backed by a large insurance company, they'll put it up, and what happens is you give them the entire amount that you were going to put up for cash. So let's say it's $2,500 bond. You give them the $2,500. They post a bond. If you don't show up, they have your $2,500 right there. They'll take 10% out of it. But if you win the case, you get all $2,500 back from the bonding company. They don't have any liability to the court because they were just a surety. And that saves you from charges will be dismissed on payment of costs. Why would you want to pay the cost? Because jeopardy attaches in some states. And you don't want some idiot picking the charges back up later on trying to make a political point who has not familiarized themselves with the Constitution. So,
well, it says he posted, it says those parts of the ruling have been on hold while the appeal was decided, and Trump posted $175 million bond in place of paying the entire judgment during the appeal process. So he's not going to get that $175 million.
Well, if he put it up cash or certificate or whatever it may be, and it's no longer applicable, they'll deduct the court cost from that. If they awarded cost against him to the other side, meaning to the state of New York, which may not have happened, he might get it all back if there are no costs to be assessed. That's what I was talking about.
Okay.
Sometimes it's like, for example, there's a $500 fine on something, but there's $2,784 in cost. So you may say, "Oh, I can pay the fine," but wait a minute, where the rest of the money go to?
Right. Well, I want to kind of stay on these investigations of high-profile individuals, because Trump officials signals DOJ will investigate federal governor Cook.
Federal governor?
Yeah, so the Department of Justice will investigate Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook based on criminal
on the Fed, yeah.
Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook based on criminal referral sent by a Trump administration housing official and art critic arch critic of central bank chairman Jerome Powell, according to a letter obtained by CBC's Sarah Eason on Thursday. So I want to play this clip here.
Just want to bring you some news. I have received a letter from what appears to be the Department of Justice. Edward Martin, who is the special attorney for mortgage fraud, Associate Deputy Attorney General, to Fed Chair Jerome Powell. This is in relation to the saga and the accusations around Lisa Cook around mortgage fraud. The letter from the Department of Justice's Ed Martin that I'm looking at, addressed to Chair Powell, says that he's received referrals and must examine publicly available facts before proceeding. But over the past 24 hours, the DOJ says they've examined a recent referral and reviewed the public comments by one of your Federal Reserve Board members. What I'm seeing requires further examination, but I write to encourage you to aid efforts and to fight public corruption and the appearance as such. The letter goes farther and actually calls on Fed Chair Powell to remove Ms. Cook from your board. Martin says, do it today before it is too late. After all, no American thinks it is appropriate that she serve this time with a cloud hanging over her. So explicitly calling for Fed Chair Powell to remove her, and then says, as we begin any investigation of the conduct like that by Ms. Cook and the referral, I will likely be required for confidentiality purposes to remain silent about our investigations. However, I will answer any questions you have to help make you make a timely decision to remove her. We've reached out to the Department of Justice to confirm. We've reached out to the Federal Reserve to confirm as well. But this does appear to show, Carl, a step further here in this drama that the Department of Justice is on it and will investigate and is calling on the Fed chair to remove her. It's not clear that it is the Fed chair's job or has the authority even to remove her, even if he were to do so. And by the way, I don't think he would do so without any charges filed or anything like that. However, it's really the president that can remove a Fed governor for a cause. And I think there's going to be a lot of legal questions into what cause looks like and what the Department of Justice finds here in their investigation, what she surfaces. I mean, she have to give her the benefit of the doubt to be able to speak and defend herself and go through her paperwork and share with the public what has happened here. But this is becoming more serious and it's taken up a notch. Department of Justice is on it.
Yeah.
You know, those of us who practice criminal defense law know well what it means when the feds announce that you are the target of a criminal investigation. I take it back when I was talking about Bondi earlier after her press conference. But after listening to the trap she set for several people who fell into it and gave public declarations of what was going on, she advised them that they are targets for criminal investigations. So that's what we have here. And when you have the feds investigating somebody as a target, boy, you have your work cut out for you.
So investigating and being charged are two different things.
Two different things, but since the grand jury only hears one side of the story, it's pretty much a slam dunk if the feds go in front of a grand jury that's been convened by a federal court. It's like,
so does when a federal when a DOJ starts investigating you, does a grand jury include that investigation, or is that when they're about to charge you?
What's going to happen is you don't know whether they will or not, because they won't tell you unless a witness that is testified in front of the grand jury is testified in court. Then you get a copy of the transcript of the grand jury testimony. In federal discovery, you're not entitled to any of this until the person gets on the stand and testifies, who is a witness, either in the trial a witness in the trial who is also a witness in front of a grand jury. But as a pragmatic matter, sitting out in the hallway while one of your clients has been called in to testify in front of a grand jury, you kind of get these impressions. So, yeah, that's the way it works.
And the president has the authority to remove her?
He can, but there is what you call due process of civil law, and there are probably some requirements. I'm not familiar with them right now. I'll have to look them up. That would be written into the law that established the Fed. That's the banking system. It got beyond the keen of most legislators who had to vote on stuff. So they set up the body to deal with the arcana of finance, high finance, and the banking industry. And they're going to leave it to them to come up with recommendations that they back up with either legislation or pre-existing authorization for the agency to make rulings on certain things. That's like ATF gets some authority within the parameters of the established law to make certain rulings on firearms or explosives or the sale of alcohol.
Yeah, because I do know Trump. He wants to get rid of Jerome Powell, the head of the Federal Reserve.
I see his point.
Yeah, so I guess if if Jerome Powell cabinet, I'm calling it his administration, if any of he probably got some crooks, she's probably, well, allegedly she's being investigated. Does that give Trump the upper hand to push Jerome Powell out?
Maybe it depends on what the connection is and what the circumstances are. In other words, you run a business and one of your employees or associates independently engages in criminal activity that's not connected with the operation of your business, does that incriminate you? Does that entitle any legal action to be taken against your business interest because somebody independently engaged in something wrong?
Right, that makes sense. Okay, one more criminal investigation. What is going on?
It's a lot of them that should have been brought that haven't been because they got a wink and a nod from the previous Justice Department. Go right ahead.
Okay, big story here and a bigger one coming tomorrow.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, we'll talk about tomorrow in a second. So this is another example. Last week, we talked about the 3 FBI probes that were shut down in 2016 at the direction of the Obama Justice Department. The famous quote, "shut it down." Those agents were not allowed to pursue predicated criminal investigatory information about the Clinton Foundation in a pay-to-play scheme. We now learn 3 years later, 2019, in the first Trump administration, 2 whistleblowers, one of them a decorated federal investigator who used to do terrorism financing and uncover all of the al-Qaeda financing for the U.S. government, very respected. They file a whistleblower complaint. It leads to a criminal investigation by IRS. They're moving down the path very quickly. Hey, we might want to sign you special witnesses up as confidential witnesses. We might want to have you work with us. Let's get this case done. And then a full stop out of the blue. We can no longer talk about the Clinton Foundation. We can't talk about it. We're shutting it down. We got the internal emails from the IRS. What was going on behind the scenes at the IRS? They were making up excuses like this. The IRS doesn't have any resources to investigate a nonprofit that might have been violating the law. Now, the same IRS that went after lots of conservative nonprofits in the 14-15 timeframe and the famous Lois Lerner scandal suddenly had no resources when it came to Hillary Clinton and her foundation and pay-to-play and tax allegations. All the documents are up on the website, and people can read them. There is a protection racket that was around Democrats, whether it was Hillary and Bill Clinton or Joe Biden or Hunter Biden. We keep seeing federal agents being denied the right to pursue normal criminal investigations when it came to Democrats.
Yeah.
I would say right now.
This is getting bigger by the day. We know grand juries are formed. We know there's a grand conspiracy investigation. We're going to learn something about a very prominent name tomorrow. What can you tell us? Yeah.
So I mentioned last week that there was a section of those James Comey FBI leak investigation memos that was redacted. I believe because of the good work of Kash Patel, the FBI director, and the Attorney General Pam Bondi, we're going to get to see what's behind those redactions. I think it's going to shock people. I think we're going to see some pretty clear evidence of what the lieutenants working for James Comey were told to do. I think when people see it tomorrow, they'll get a real shock of just how much evidence the government had and didn't pursue. Again, the same pattern, Sean. You get pretty strong evidence of criminality. You don't pursue it when it comes to Democrats or their friends in the deep state.
So Hillary, the Clinton Foundation, is the IRS has begun a criminal probe.
Well, let's put it this way. I've been here for more than a half century in this area, and Arkansas, Tennessee, Mississippi, tri-state area. And let's just put it this way, that Arkansas has a profound reputation for corruption. And maybe since that's where they're from, or have been professionally situated for all of those years, same number that I have been. That's what's been going on, is the importation of Arkansas-based corruption to the national scene.
Because
It's
here's
like,
the thing, because they were under investigations, right? But then the FBI was forced to shut it down in 2019. So Trump is under Trump administration now. He's ordering the IRS to no, we're gonna pick this up and we're gonna investigate criminal tax investigation into this Clinton Foundation.
let me explain again bureaucracy.
That's a global organization.
Yeah, but let me explain bureaucracies. All right. How long have you been out of college? All right. We don't need to know an exact figure, but if you're over 30, over 40, it's been quite a while. Let's imagine that you got hired when you were 24 years old at a certain agency, and you've been working there from 24 to you are 47 now. The political party that you supported when you were 24 and the officers of that party are not necessarily the ones that are representative of that party when you're 47 years old, but you're still there. So what happens is when you're 47, here's somebody that comes in and you can't stand them, you don't like them, you didn't vote for them, you sent in contribution or drop some cash in the bucket at a political rally for the opponent, and here you are charged with something that impacts what you believe in, and it's one of those things where you can go either way. Well, likely is not. It's going to go the way that deals with your particular belief system or outlook on life. So what happens is that may no longer be the current policy of the country. It may no longer be like your relatives, your younger family members, or your older family members think. So there's going to be things that if they were encouraged, then somebody later might say, we can't have this. This is not going to wash. We've got to undo this. This is not what the government's supposed to be up to right now. So that's the bureaucracy. It has a life of its own, and it's independent of who the people put in office. It comes from China, where they had the Mandarin system, where to be one of these elite, noble class caste people known as mandarins, you had to pass what amounts to American civil service exams. And the Mandarin class, the civil service employee, does not always agree with what the majority of the people want to do. Why do you have that? Because there's a certain expertise that needs to be brought to bear on the subject that you have the bureaucracy for. But it's to be balanced by somebody at the top who will keep it politically relevant. Now, if the person's honest, fine, but sometimes the person in charge is not an honest person or is a zealot for one cause or another, and that creates problems.